Today we are in Germany at an undisclosed Volkswagen filming location with the ID Everyone. My name is Peter and today I'm going to take you around this concept car. Concept car is important because it's not finished yet. This is about an 80-20 version as they say, so 20% still needs to be fiddled with. But this is the up modern version, so you will. We of course have the ID2, the ID3, the ID4 and so on, and this is going to be the smallest ID line Volkswagen. So there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot of marketing blah blah with magic potions, secret sauce and a lot of other nonsense. Forget about that. The car here in the flesh is actually really cool. It starts here on the front with a very approachable face on the one hand. It has to be a car that looks happy and approachable. But on the other hand, it's a car that has a very bold and muscular stance. You can see here with the new lights, with the daytime running lights and the illuminated Volkswagen logo, which of course fits the whole ID line and philosophy, that it's a really approachable front. And the whole car is very approachable because of course this is the smallest Volkswagen, or is going to be the smallest Volkswagen. The Volkswagen Up was produced up till 2023, and this is going to be the replacement, and it's not coming till 2027.
Originally scheduled for 2025, here is the ID2 that my colleague Thomas already had a look at. It is now scheduled to arrive in 2026, and you can really see that this is a bit of a cross between the current Volkswagen Polo and the current ID3. So this new ID1 is a very much departure from this design with a very new and fresh face, but I think overall it fits the family line.
It's a little bit bigger with 3 meters 88. The Volkswagen Up was 3 meters 60, so it's a chunk bigger. But it's still smaller than the Polo, which hits 4 meters. So it's nicely in between. And they say, we won't know until we can actually sit inside, that it has the space of the Polo despite being significantly smaller. So that's cool. I think here on the side we also have a nice square profile, but importantly it doesn't look like a toy. When you talk to the designers here, they really wanted to make a bold car that looks muscular, but it's very easy to overdo it. And I think this still looks nice and stylish without overly looking like a toy car. 19-inch wheels also add to that stance, makes it look muscular on the road. And overall, if you look at the side profile, I think it's nice and sleek. That sleekness also comes along here in the back. Like I said, there's a lot of design language going on, but especially this roofline, they're really proud of, that it looks a bit like the bubbles on a sport car. So that's kind of cool, and they have integrated the brake lights here nicely on the top. The boot space is going to be over 300 liters. We can't tell yet because we can't look inside yet. But that's, again, significantly bigger than the Up that it's replacing. You can see here the lights mimic the ones in the front, so that's kind of cool. And also the logo here is illuminated. And overall, I think that really wide stance really amplifies itself here in the back, where it looks chunky and big, really muscular. It's still a pretty broad car. It's almost 1.80 meters wide. So that's still pretty significant for a small car like this. All around though, I think the design is working. Despite all the marketing blah blah, when you see the car in the flesh, it looks cool. And I think with the narrow window line, and especially in this sort of amber color, it looks really striking. And I think this is a nice replacement for the Up.
Now, we couldn't look inside during the filming of this prototype, but Volkswagen has released a few renders of how the inside is going to look like. Obviously, you got to take this with a grain of salt because a lot of things will probably still change in the development process, but there's a few key takeaways that we can already point at. The first one here, when you look at the whole interior, is of course the center console. That is supposed to be some kind of origami, multifunctional, sliding in and out, popping kind of thing, with cup holders and storage all included. So that's, I suppose, sort of interesting, but we'll have to see how much of that will actually make it to production. What is more interesting is in this forward view to have a look at the dashboard and most importantly the steering wheel. All the current ID models have these capacitive buttons, and as you can see here, it looks like they're going back to traditional real buttons on the steering wheel. So that's cool, that's good news. It's also quite cool to see this spoke design with just the central spokes. And overall, I think this looks elegant and still very functional. So that's great. With, of course, on the left, your wipers and on the right, your gear selector, as we are used to in the ID model. So they've reused that. If we then have a look at the central screen, of course, this will vary in size depending on which version of the car you'll get. But underneath, we see physical buttons for the Klima unit. So that's great too, because in the current ID models, it's a sort of touchy-swipey situation that doesn't really work that well. They try to solve it a bit over the years, but still it's not ideal. This is real buttons, which is easier and better and functional. This is what we like. So that's awesome to see that Volkswagen is going back to the things that they know work and they know people can use also while driving. So that's all really positive to see. And again, we have to see how much of this makes it to production, but the signs are good. Now, if we look through the steering wheel, we can see a driver's display, no signs of any kind of head-up option. Obviously, this is a car that's going to be made to a budget, and head-up units are expensive, so it makes sense that it's not in here, especially in this smallest of all Volkswagens. But overall, the design, I like it. It looks fresh. Material choices and fabrics and all those kind of choices will obviously be determined later on in the production process, but it looks nice and spacious and airy. Even for a small car, it still feels very like a pleasant place to be. So that's good, and especially the buttons, that is very encouraging.
Engine-wise, there's not that much we can say yet. They're aiming for around 100 horsepower from the electric drivetrain. No word on batteries yet, because the car is still 2 years away. But they're aiming for about 250 kilometers of electric range. So we can make some assumptions on the battery size, but that's something they can still work on in the 2 years to come before it actually launches. All around, I think Volkswagen has done a pretty good job in putting a car together that looks striking and interesting, modern and fresh, which is exactly what they're aiming to do. Because with all the trouble in the car industry these days, and especially with Volkswagen, of course, it's important that Volkswagen delivers on the future and on its promises for the future. So this car will cost 20,000 euros, they say. Obviously, that's going to be a base spec, but they really say that they have to deliver because it's part of their future strategy, and they really have to keep their promises. So that's encouraging. The ID2, the bigger brother, will be 25,000, so they really want to make those tiers so you can go up in the ID line. And they're really aiming to make that lineup complete and aiming for like leadership in the mobility world and also leadership in the space of models that they can offer. So that's cool, and I think this is a good start. If this is indeed 80/20, I think it's going to be quite a cool car. That's all I got for you in this video. Thank you for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss any future updates, and I can't wait to drive this in the years to come. Cheers.